Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our campaign is entitled A Time to Harvest. It was written by Brian Sammons, Charles P. Ziglanis, Glenn Owen Barras, and Mike Mason, and it's available on the Chaosium website. Jeff Wilkins is our game master, and this is Chapter 4, Episode 2. So without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Jeff?
Thanks, Tom. Quick, first, I'll apologize just in case the geese return. I got some geese in the backyard. So quick recap. We basically started off the new chapter. You left Detroit from Abelard's home office, and you arrived in Vermont. So you're now currently in Cobb's Corner. You're back at the house that you stayed in originally, although the house has been almost rebuilt. I mean, there's been quite a few additions and fortifications built in now. The backyard looks a little bit like a war zone. There's some hidden pits. There's traps all about. There's warning tripwires. You guys are pretty much well hunkered down in this house of yours. We sort of left it off with, I think somebody in the comments said something about a bit of an anticlimactic ending, where you basically were just, it's a Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning. The Dr. Matheson stayed back at the house. She had some samples that she was going to run tests on during the day. It seems as though something, probably Amigo, was trapped in one of the bear traps overnight. So she's going to be running tests on that. Larry, the mechanic, has also agreed to stay back at the house. He's going to check out the truck. He said it sounded a little bit funny on the way here. And then we had Sam Morrison, the head of security, and I believe the rest of the four of you joined him, as you basically are now wandering off into the woods on a search mission, I guess you would say.
We made it to the clearing, right? Before?
Yeah, I think that's where we ended, where you
and found nothing.
Yep, it was pretty much just the rock. Yep. So,
well, should we try the cabin?
See if we can find the cabin.
Okay, sure.
See also if there's, can we keep our eyes, how long has it been since we were here? Just a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, we can play with the timing exactly, but it's been roughly about 2 weeks, give or take.
So we can assume that there might be some evidence left. It's not like it's been a year.
Right,
So,
yep.
Yeah, so can I just say that I'm constantly looking out to see if I can find any evidence on the ground, stains of blood, something that might look like residue or footprints.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So the cabin, I don't have it on a map or anything, but it's not that far. I think, if memory serves, it was only about a mile or so into the woods. It was pretty much just basically a rundown hunting cabin. You get there, it pretty much looks how you left it.
Check down in the basement.
You gonna head down?
Yeah, carefully.
Yeah, I'm headed down behind Tug then.
It's kind of dark. If you remember, this was basically like a small cellar, root cellar almost.
Right.
So there's no windows or anything. It's dark and, out of the direct sunlight, it's a little bit cooler down here. This is where...
Do we need flashlights to see?
Yeah, we probably have.
Probably. I'll just say one of you brought one. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. This is where Jerry found his infamous jar of peaches.
Right. And we killed two demon things, whatever they were.
Yes. Yep.
One under the ladder.
Yep. Yep.
Any evidence?
So there's the physical evidence that you would expect. So I believe Danny was like shooting through the steps. So there's probably, broken where the bullets might have ricocheted or shattered the wooden steps. So there's some physical evidence there, but beyond that, it looks like someone has gone down there and sort of like, I want to say trash the place, but I mean, there wasn't a whole lot in there to begin with. So it's not like but it looks like there's some graffiti that's been painted on the wall, some upside down stars with the circle around it.
Are the chains still hanging, or did somebody swipe those? She was hanging, right? Like this?
She was hanging. I'm trying to think if it was chains or a rope. I don't think it was anything.
I thought it was a rope.
I think it was a rope because I think I remember you guys had to cut her down.
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
And there's no rope remaining?
Right. There's no rope there.
No blood stains?
It's a dirt floor.
On the walls even? If not the floor? Or the stairs?
That's a good question.
Well, let's just say this, that if the spot, I probably remember the spot that I fought the thing, I'm going to get a dirt sample from there. Even if it doesn't show up, maybe it'll show up under a microscope, something weird.
I'm going to say that you're kind of looking for this physical, like you said, like the blood stains, but nothing's really jumping at you.
What about?
We're with some of the guys, right? So I was some of the scientists.
Right now it's just the four of you plus Sam.
Plus Sam. Well, I'm telling him, I'm saying this is where something really weird happened.
And he's asking you details. So
we found the girl here.
Right. Okay.
She was tied up, and we kind of tell him the story. And I was like, it was dark. We're not really sure what it was, but there was definitely two things down here that were in the process of torturing that girl.
They looked like satyrs.
Yeah, like mythological creatures.
I looked closely at the graffiti. You said there were inverted pentagrams and stars. Are there any other more interesting occult symbols that might be recognizable to me?
Not so much symbols. There's a big giant, somebody wrote on one of the walls, the devil's house.
Yeah.
In graffiti style, or like what's it written in?
Yeah, just haphazard, like white paint.
Oh, okay. It's all the stuff is in white, all the symbols? Or are there any other symbols other than the pentagrams at all?
No, just that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's probably, probably the young kids or the young people.
What kind of young people in a town this size, this far out of the way, would even know to paint that symbol in association with the devil?
Well, we don't know. Well, they're kids.
Yeah, kids who read pulp magazine.
Yeah.
You know what they're like. Trash.
Well, the children at the school draw pictures of creatures and people falling down dead. So, yeah.
Oh, that's right. That kind of time.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me. Maybe we should be getting onto the school and finding out more about the kinds of reading materials that our school teacher recommends.
Well, we've got lots of time, so I suppose we can keep looking around here. I don't know if Sam wants to go farther.
So I'm going to actually put that to you guys for what you want to do.
All right. So
time's not really an issue. We could say, if you want to spend the whole day just searching, that's fine.
We don't really know what's beyond this. This is as far as we went in the woods.
I want to search to the place more thoroughly. You said it was trashed. So that would imply that something might be hidden in or under the trashedness, like more magic peaches. Although I think I've probably reined in my need for security foci like that. But, maybe there will be something else interesting, or maybe the people who painted this, even if they are kids, left something weird down here. Some weird little, I don't know. I think it's a little beyond pulp magazines to be putting pentagrams on walls in 1930, so I'm looking for weird evidence of something that happened down here.
Do a spot hidden.
Absolutely not. A 93 isn't a fumble, but there's a lot of trash, apparently. Maybe
the one thing
I
else,
can't quite keep the peaches out of my mind, and I'm like, there's got to be something interesting, but I can't see what's actually there, if anything.
The one thing maybe that brings horror to your eyes is that whatever other jars of peaches or preserves were still there, they've all been smashed on the ground.
What a waste.
Yep.
Those weren't the lucky ones.
You beat me.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think, because we're not in a desperate rush, I think it'd be good to really take a walk around the woods. I think that's my suggestion. Why don't we carry on taking a walk around the woods and maybe see, like Tug's suggesting, what's beyond the woods? Is there some hills? What's the kind of scenic lie of the land where these creatures could maybe hide out,
Plus, we're looking for any kind of evidence of Miko.
Yeah.
You're right, Danny, anywhere but down here. You have to get out of this disgusting mess. It's nothing but vandalism and superstition down here.
I imagine it smells.
Mm-hmm. Very, very earthy. It's got the earth floor.
Yeah, I just immediately leave.
We should maybe look out for Migo droppings. I don't know if they do that.
They're chunks of solid gold. Who knows?
Come on, Tug.
All right, let's go. I want to get out of this place. Just burn it to the ground.
Yeah, Danny didn't really want to be in there again. So.
Whose cabin is this? I wonder if it's owned by somebody. I mean, cabins aren't just magically out in the woods. Somebody owns this cabin. We should see if we can find out. Probably the town hall might have records of real estate that people own, and this is definitely a piece of real estate. So
we should find out what might have been here before, if anything.
Well, it might not have been anything here before. It might just be a cabin that somebody built to spend some time in. But
I guess someone would have claimed the land, though.
Yeah, it might be claimed that they've just never come out here since then. The cabin looks older than, like, built yesterday, so...
Yeah, correct.
Does it look like it was built in the last 10 or 15 years, or that it's been here for 50 years, maybe out in the woods built from some?
Yeah, probably older, like the 50 or more. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an old cabin.
Yeah.
I suppose it's been here at least as long as whenever we were dreaming about. A root cellar full of things in jars.
I suppose it could also be possible that it was built by a trapper or something at one point, and even the people who own the land now don't even know it's here, but we'll see.
Well, now I suppose they use it to hang different kinds of game.
Well, they don't. We kill those demons.
Well, I was referring to whatever townspeople are in league with venerating them.
Your conspiracy theories.
We'll see when we get to the schoolhouse, but I'm with Danny. Let's spend as much time as much time as we need away from the town.
Danny, you said it briefly, I think, but I'm just curious, did you have any misgivings to going down there?
Yeah, I don't think Ivan went down there.
Oh, okay.
I probably stood at the top while the guys wandered about, and the top of the stair.
On guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, now that I'm probably remembering the thing that I don't normally like to remember at this point, so I'm like exceedingly wary and basically just ready to shoot things. I mean, this is the mode. So.
Okay. Well, so So after a while, you do a thorough search. There's nothing else really turning up. So now you're faced with basically the decision of, would you like to spend the rest of the day with Sam, just basically getting a lay of the land, looking for whatever, it's almost like, I was trying to think of it today. It's almost like you're out hunting deer, right? You don't necessarily have a bait trap out. So it's almost like you're really just kind of just wandering the woods, hoping to see something. Unless there's something a little bit more specific you want to tell me, I think we can probably just fast forward through that.
Okay.
I'd be
Yeah,
keen to spend the day out
I'm
here.
not that bothered. I don't think there's much chance of seeing anything during the daytime.
There's only one thing out here I really want to see, but I don't necessarily have to do that right now. The mole people, but I don't want anybody to hurt nobody. No mole people.
Could everybody do a power roll for me?
Pass.
Fail for Tug.
Pass.
Pass.
Extreme pass.
Extreme. Tug, did you fail by a lot or just a little bit?
I got 85 and my POW is 50.
Okay.
So yeah.
Not yet. Okay, we might come back to that.
35. I failed by 35 points.
Okay. I think so. The woods are rather heavy in this area. Tug, it's sort of your imagination's a little bit running away from you. So you're really wanting to find another mole man, and every little flit of a bird or a squirrel or a little twig snap, you kind of just like, what's that? Is that one of them? So, but after like most of the day, it's just kind of disappointment. It's like maybe you saw something out of the corner of your eye, but you don't have anything concrete.
Okay.
So I would like to then, so what we'll say, I mean, this wasn't necessarily totally wasted because you are getting a layout of the land. So if for whatever reason you had to come out here again, you would know the area a little bit better. So what I'll do is, do you guys want to push forward to the next day? Like, did you want to spend the full day out there? Or was this like, let's just give it till lunchtime, come back, and then we'll go do something else?
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I also know hiking around in the woods like that is exhausting after a while.
Mm-hmm.
We might come back even afternoon and just want to eat.
Yeah, we could chill and just do the next day. I think the only other thing I want to mention is that what Danny's trying to work out is, where do these creatures hide, So because of the way they are, they could, because there's this kind of fungusy thing going on, they could maybe live in the forest. But I'm thinking if they fly, maybe not. I remember the last time we were here, was it myself and Tug climbed up the mountain? We had a kind of competition where we climbed a hill. So maybe they would live somewhere like that. So I think throughout the whole day, if we're out the whole day, and I don't know if there's anything to roll like geology or whatever, or if it's just an idea to kind of keep there, Jeff, that Danny's trying to work out where could they actually stay,
Yeah.
If this is the area of activity, are they underground? Do they live in burrows? Are they on the hills? That kind of thing. Are they in the trees because they fly? So I think the whole time, Danny's that's what's going through my mind as I'm traveling about.
That's good thinking. The one thing I will say, and again, I know we're all sort of playing with our memories here as far as trying to remember back to episode 1. I'll just say this: whether or not you remember it or not, I mean, I'm sure Danny probably remembers it. It kind of was like a lot of the stories that you were hearing from the townsfolk that you sort of wrote off as, folklore or superstitious. And it's kind of like registering now that, similar to what you're saying, you remember that there was a lot of vague like we heard noises out in the woods, or we saw weird lights, or it was always like, they're out there, right? So,
which is typical of folklore.
mm-hmm.
It's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember that the guy saw something float down the river, which would suggest it had come up from upstream. So yeah, that's just
along the same lines. Can I ask, is the topography like, here's the town, and then here's our cabin or our house, and then here are the woods, and then here are the hills, and then there are the mountains?
That's pretty much how I'm picturing.
Sloping up towards the mountains.
Yep.
So yeah, you could hide an army out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way I'm picturing it in my mind, it's not like one mountain like Fuji. It's like, a mountain range.
Yeah.
So there's all these little fiddledy bits going into the mountains, arroyos and valleys.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, maybe Tug, you comment about that as I'm maybe talking to you about, so ultimately they could come in from any direction,
right.
The way yeah. Okay.
But now the other thing to bear in mind too, Danny, is that if these are an intelligent species, which obviously they can talk, if they don't want to be seen, they can probably hide pretty well. They can probably see us coming from a long way off and purposefully hide themselves.
Especially considering that they can apparently open doors to other worlds.
Like Sasquatch. Well, I don't know if Sasquatch can open doors, but there's Sasquatch right out there right now. We can't see them because they see us, they hide.
I'm inclined to think you're right, Tug. Who knows what dwells in between the worlds and in...
Or the mole men.
Various nooks and crannies of our dimension.
They're watching us right now. I mean you no harm, mole men. I'll bring you some chicken.
And socks, right?
And socks. I haven't made the sock connection yet. Why they want socks, but maybe they need clothes.
All right, so I think so we'll come back. You like you said, you worked up an appetite for lunch. Nothing fancy, but it tastes good because you were hungry. So do you guys want to do something else that afternoon, or there was talk about maybe going in and talking to some people in town, or?
Why don't we go into town?
Well, we could actually hit the school right when school's about to get out. And that way we'll have a few minutes we can talk to the teacher without bothering the kids.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Because she'll need an hour to clean up her room and stuff or whatever she does.
And all the blood from the sacrificial rats.
And the vomit from the children getting sick from it.
Oh boy. I just happened to think, do I need to bring up a map of the town, or do you still have access to the... Okay.
It's not that big of a town, so we kind of know where everything is.
Okay. All right, so at some point during lunch, Larry mentions to you guys all, to everybody, that while you guys were out in the woods, the sheriff stopped by.
Oh,
And,
yes.
He sorry, I'm getting sidetracked with buttons.
Sheriff Spencer, yeah.
Yep. He didn't give me a hard time. He was just poking around, is the impression I got. Kind of gave me the warning, be careful out here, and I don't want any trouble and all that. He asked you guys, did you have any impressions of him at all, or advice, or?
Don't trust him.
Well, he seemed
Don't
like
tell him anything.
the sheriff seemed like a typical serious sheriff, no humor at all. His deputy seemed a little bit nicer, but then his deputy turned on us like a redcoat.
It's a shame he didn't stand in one of the bear traps coming up here.
I think they usually interpret the turn as the other way around, Tug. But I take your meaning. These local lawmen, they must know what's going on here, and I think that might account for the deputy's change of behavior, and surely know that they wouldn't have ascribed our reports to drunkenness. So I think that the less they're told, the better. By the way, speaking of information, did you find anything in that green substance, Doctor?
Nothing really. I mean, it's all super interesting. I mean, this is to think about what we're studying here is amazing, but she doesn't really have anything to report back to you at this point.
Did Larry get the car fixed, the van?
You get the sense that Larry has now taken the carburetor out of the truck, and there's almost a sense of maybe he's just trying to feel important. Like there might not have been anything wrong with it at all, but he's like, he didn't feel like walking around in the woods. So it's like, well, if I stay here and clean the carburetor, no one will bother me. So, he's going to ask, I'm curious to pursue that a little bit. So Larry's going to turn to either Tug or Jerry or both of you, whatever, and say, what can you elaborate? What did you mean by they turned on you? What did you mean by that?
Well, when we first got here, see, if I was going to say trust, I would trust the sheriff more than the deputy, and only because the sheriff's predictable. The sheriff is in charge of taking care of the town. He's a hard-nosed fellow. Was it his daughter or his sister that died? He's got reason to be concerned for any funny business going on in his town, and he's no nonsense. But the other guy, the deputy, he came here. He downplayed the sheriff. He acted very friendly towards us so that we would trust him. And then the second the shit hit the fan, he completely betrayed us and was completely on the sheriff's, on the uninformed side. So I don't trust him at all. Yeah.
So either that means that one or both of them might have brains good at making a decent impression of being a sheriff, or deputy wanted to make a good, convincing impression of being unsympathetic in front of the sheriff, or whoever passes for being the sheriff.
I don't think anything is suspicious about either of their behaviors. I just think that the one guy is a dick, and the other guy is just a sheriff.
How did he betray him?
Well, because he acted so friendly and on our side right up until he wanted, right up until the sheriff was there, and then he completely turned coat, and he was completely, we were just no good kids.
I think the part we might have inadvertently left out, Larry, that would clarify matters is that when we reported being assaulted in this house by, whatever they are, and this one looked rather crab-like, but also perhaps could fly, and gave a reasonable account of terrifying circumstances, the sheriff, and indeed the otherwise friendly deputy, put it down to alcoholic inebriation. Now, I have trouble believing that even in a town this small, that the sheriff and the deputy wouldn't know the difference between alcoholic inebriation and the kind of demented hallucinations that could hardly be caused by more extreme agents.
I remember something else, too. The deputy showed up. The deputy was the one who kind of rescued us, wasn't he?
Yes, so he must have known something was going on.
He knew something was going on, and yet he just threw us under the bus, as they say.
Either that, or it
Yeah.
doesn't take them. Either that, or it doesn't take them long to replace a brain or a mind, or both.
Well, yeah, once again, I don't see that happening, but it could have happened. I mean, yes, it could have happened, but even if it didn't, I don't trust him.
Well, how long did it take them to replace our former colleagues? Not very long.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That night. That's when the switch happened, wasn't it?
I still don't. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't really know either.
That's the only answer I really have for your question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He seems like he's not trustworthy. He tries to be friendly, and then he fucks with you. So.
So basically, Larry, don't trust anyone except us, and, well, you'll be as fine as we are.
Yeah.
But the sheriff acts now exactly the same way he acted then. He hasn't changed at all.
It sounds like not.
That's a good point. All right, so heading off into town. Do you want to bring anybody with you, or are you guys on your own, or?
The psychologist.
Okay, sure. He'll go along. I forgot about him, actually.
That's Dr. David something.
Drake.
Sure.
Yeah, he's willing to do that.
Yeah, we think there's something up with the school.
So on the ride in, he'll just, you don't have to recap the whole story, but he'll just ask you, what's your thinking?
The drawings that the children made were peculiar and suggested perhaps some kind of
Ritual.
local superstitions, witch cults, ritualistic behavior.
I mentioned the fact that kids go missing as well.
Okay.
Something coming out of the sky and people dying. They even used red ink.
It was a pretty unwholesome image for a child to paint.
What was the image?
It was kind of a cloud with, wasn't that it? A cloud that was
It's like a cloud it had kind of
There's sort of tendrils of darkness.
shooting down and people laying on the ground with blood all over the place. Hey, I don't remember clearly, but were there winged things in that? Were those the Mako?
Maybe they were difficult to make out, about as difficult as that newspaper photo, come to think of it.
Yeah, there was something, creatures.
I
I
wish
just
we'd taken
remember
that picture.
dark cloud.
If we'd have taken the picture, then the teacher might have noticed. So we didn't take the picture.
Do any of you remember, how did you come across this picture?
Oh,
It was on her desk.
I found it.
Did she, I'll say this is Dr. Drake asking you this, did she give it to you, or did you just see
No, I just saw it. It was on her desk.
it?
It was also a
It's the sort of
poem.
thing that catches your attention.
There was also a poem, and the poem was like set to the cadence of Jesus loves me. Yes, I know. But it was something about the mother. The mother loves me.
Oh,
That's why I thought it might involve some kind of primitive witchcraft.
At the time, it just seemed weird because we didn't know any of this stuff going on yet. But now that we look back now that we know a little bit more about some of the strange things.
Well, Tug,
Very strange.
you clearly compartmentalize information, maybe better than some, because at the time we had also had to shoot dead 2 goat men and 1 unspeakable horror, and I could hardly keep thoughts of the demonic from my mind, but good job keeping your head so intact.
Well, and otherwise, we were just in the classroom talking to the teacher.
Well, that's
Really,
true. That was somewhat distracting in its own right, I have
The
to admit.
source of the pictures is actually the children, not the teacher.
Well, that's true. She herself, as far as we know, wasn't drawing depictions of eldritch horrors, but, that doesn't mean she doesn't, and probably if she did, they'd be more artistic. Or
You know
using
what?
real blood.
I wish that you've got quite the imagination. I wish that I had looked more carefully, because there might have been the little kid's name on there, and we would know which little kid was drawing it. Teachers usually make kids put their names on things, but alas, that we don't have that picture anymore. So
It would have been interesting also to know if there's any correlation between what child draws what kind of picture and which ones have unfortunate accidents.
maybe the picture is still there. Maybe it's just art, and she stuck it on the wall with all the other little kids, art.
And if she did, Doctor, would you think it extraordinary that any school teacher would display such a thing as though it were unremarkable, unless there was something peculiar about her?
I mean, from what you're describing it to me, I mean, I haven't seen it myself, but from what you're describing, it sounds a little gruesome. I don't think the teacher would hang that sort of thing.
Maybe she didn't understand what she was looking at. Maybe she just thought it was, who knows? Kids draw weird things.
Did you confront her at all? Did you ask her?
No.
Okay.
We didn't, like I said, at that moment, we really didn't think about it.
We were researching folklore, and there has been talk in the town of things like vampires, of course, vampire legends, and accusations that someone in the town is a witch. But she didn't seem to be much of a witch to me.
That's what I was just going to ask you, actually. Is it possible that these children are drawing or writing or, based on what they're hearing? From what you're describing, the whole town is a little bit batty.
Well, we never heard any folklore so specific as black tendrils descending from the sky. But we did see something that would remind us of that.
We also don't know all of the stories that people tell their children. And if the whole area is filled with this kind of folklore, it could just be a kid writing the end of a story that they heard from another kid who heard it from another kid who... But it's weird.
It's the combination with the poem that makes it striking.
You're talking about Miss Bellwether?
The witch, the so-called witch, yes. Yeah. But really, the poem and the picture taken together seem notable. I actually found the poem much more notable than the picture. It's most unusual for any child to reword a religious song.
Right.
Unless it were in mockery, and this did not seem like mockery.
I think the teacher was teaching them.
There were a number of religious cults that thought of
I think so too.
A goddess figure, a mother figure, instead of a father figure. So.
And since I know of no revival of such traditions outside of more cosmopolitan areas, it almost seems as though this might be evidence of some kind of local traditional law.
Witch cult, maybe?
Well,
did we ever visit?
I would hate to think so, but it might be the case.
Did we ever visit the church?
Yes, as I recall, the Reverend showed the usual assertive disinterest in these kind of matters.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, I'm half-minded to think that a good portion of it is just folklore, but it's mixed with something that's real.
This seemed to be how it... that almost seems to be what you'd expect. Well, what we'd come to expect, anyway. The question that stands out to my mind is if this mother song is a genuine cultic activity, is it intended to be protective? Is it intended to propitiate and hope she doesn't take them, or is it outright veneration of some horrifying thing?
Who knows? It's the First Baptist Church of the Divine Ascension.
Of the Divine Ascension?
Yeah, when Jesus went up into heaven.
Well, yes, but that seems rather specific.
Lots of churches have names like that.
Hmm.
And since I also just took the time to look it up, his name was Reverend Earl Wilson.
Harrow?
Sorry?
Harrow Wilson?
Earl.
Earl.
E-A-R-L. Earl.
Well, unless
Does
of course you worship Migo, in which case maybe you consider being taken up by them at divine ascension.
Let's go see the teacher.
Yeah.
That's what we're on the way. So
That
Does
strikes
anybody
me
remember
as
the
the best
teacher's
course of action.
Okay. Does anybody remember the teacher's name?
Miss...
Crabapple.
There's a bonus die in it for you if you do.
Oh, hold on.
Miss...
He's possessed. Shoot him.
Was it Bathurst?
Starts with an R.
Bathurst.
That boy.
An R.
Brainwave.
Rachel, was it maybe?
No.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Time's up, Tug. Holly Rydell.
Oh.
Holly?
Holly Rydell. Although I don't know if she would have introduced her first name.
Yeah.
Miss Rydell.
I don't have Rydell written down, so.
Sorry,
That's right.
Mrs. Sorry.
Holly Rumpelstiltskin.
So after a short car ride, sorry, I got to ask, everybody's bringing guns, rifles, grenades, or
Pistol only.
pulling back a little bit since you're walking around town? Or
Pistol? For me?
okay, pistol for you,
I'm
Danny?
just a young man with my dog.
Do we, I mean, what are the laws? Can we
And
can't
the
walk
cops.
around with concealed weapons without getting in serious trouble, can't we?
Uh,
I got my knife.
I mean,
Okay.
a group of people our age with guns, isn't that a gang?
yeah, just because I
I mean,
don't
we
wanna
might
get-
as well be wearing leather jackets.
I don't want to get bogged down with looking that up right now, but I'll just say this. It's kind of like carrying a knife in that if you're out in the woods, if you're out doing some sort of outdoor activity, nobody's really going to bother you. But if you're walking around town, you don't want to be flashing the fact that you've got a gun on your hip, that sort of thing.
Well, and they're handguns.
Right,
They're
right.
weapons. So
Yep. So, I mean, what I'm saying is you can carry them. I'm not going to give you a hard time about that. But if you get caught doing something wrong, they might ramp up the,
all right.
Right.
I'm just bringing my knife. I don't go to a school with a kid with a gun.
Okay,
But
I think Danny's got his, but it's concealed. You know, it's not.
sure.
I had my gun in the woods, but I left
Yeah.
it back.
Yep, that
Go to a school run by secret witch cultists with a gun.
makes right.
I've just brought my Kosh. Rex, however, has got one of the Tommy guns.
Right, okay.
Just the one.
It's hidden under his underfloof.
All right.
So you pull up. It's actually Sunday afternoon, I think.
So there's no school. All my whole theory is out the window.
Well,
Not
then,
even to be here.
like that, it's Monday. Boom.
Okay.
You
Where
guys
did
pull
the
up to-
time go?
Yeah. You guys pull up to the school. Did you want to time it then, right around school getting done?
Yeah. What times do schools usually get out? 3:30 or so?
Sure.
I'd like to cross paths with the kids leaving the school because maybe we overhear them saying something.
Yeah, we're there.
They
a
talk
few
about
minutes.
weird things.
Are any of them wearing robes?
Yeah, I was wondering about should we try and engage one or two of the kids in conversation as well?
20s,
Or
I don't
not.
think anybody would care.
It is
Probably
the
hit the
30s.
kids and
We're
nobody
talking
would
to
care.
children.
Just backhand the kids. They'll just, yeah, he was an adult.
They might want to, you know, talk to the dog or something like that, and we can ask them if they've seen any monsters recently.
So then with that, I'll say that, you are sort of lurking around the outside of the school, very non-suspicious like, and the front doors fly open, and you see about 11 children come rushing out.
Of what ages?
Are they coming towards us?
Yeah.
With
Right.
knives.
Okay. I'll lay down suppressing fire with a Tommy.
You mean Rex will?
Sick of
Yeah. Yeah, Rex can lay down suppressing fire with the Tommy gun. And meanwhile, Tug and I will make a pincer movement around the flanks and come in behind them.
Yeah.
With my knife.
That's how I had it.
The other two can open fire with their pistols.
All right.
So some of them are, the boys are like rambunctious. They're yelling and screaming, and the girls are trying to.
Do they look like normal, happy kids?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's somebody. Yes, I didn't hear. I think it was Jerry.
What kind of age range are we talking about?
Actually, quite a range. So it's
Yeah.
a small schoolhouse, sort of, little schoolhouse in town. So it ranges all the way from, we'll say, I don't know, 6 to 15.
Any 1920s goth kids?
Is there one in the corner playing a banjo?
Up on the porch, yeah. So Danny, did you want to confront one of the kids, or?
Nah, I think it's maybe a bit full on. I think we just talk to the teacher, unless anyone else wants to.
Some of them see Rex there.
Mm.
They're quite, hey, mister, is that your dog?
Sure is, kid.
Does he bite?
When he needs to.
He eats children.
I set that whole joke up wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. That's not my dog. Yeah.
Can I charm them in jovial conversation?
Yeah, sure. Although I do want to ask Jasper, how do you think Jasper would react to the kids?
I think he's quite friendly and playful and
Tail wagging and all that.
yeah.
Okay.
And Rex, I think, would be quite friendly as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, Jasper doesn't like drawing attention to the fact that he's got a tail.
Right.
So it's probably going to be down one of his pant legs.
I don't think Jeff realized what he said.
We did get that joke.
Yeah.
You wanted to know how Jasper reacts to it, is what you said, instead of Rex.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Gives a whole new meaning to you that your fur coat that you've often worn too. All right.
We are attempting to become one and the same creature.
Yeah.
A gestalt, if you will.
So a handful of kids, a couple of kids, it's a dog. It's exciting. It's something new. So they're petting him. They're asking you questions. Danny, did you want to chime in or?
Yeah. What do you ask them? You seen any monsters?
Any witch cult around here? Let's put that to a charm roll, maybe. I don't know.
So, kids, you been up the old Mason place?
Any of you kids been up the old cabin in the woods?
Just remember, anything that you say to them, they're going to say to their parents. Their parents are going to say to the school. And their school's going to assume that we said it to the kids.
Yeah, it's quite a scary cabin. We were out for a walk today. You see, we were out having a little wander in the woods, enjoying the sunshine.
It's like kids can only creepy stories.
I found this while I was out there, and I'm reaching my pocket. And
Yeah, that's better.
stone knife. What do you make of that? Do you think that's maybe some sort of Indian artifact?
Danny opens his jacket and says, "Have you seen a gun like this big? It's a cracker." No, he doesn't. No, I think Tug's right. I think it's scary stories,
Yeah, we collect. Hi, we collect scary stories. Do you know any weird, scary stories from the area?
Hi, kids. Do any of you have a parent who keeps their brain somewhere other than their own head?
Have you lost your mind?
The younger kids are a little bit more chatty, and they say, yeah, they want to be the center of attention. And they say, yeah, we heard the one story about the one ghost out there at the old house. And, one of the other kids chimes in about vampires. So you get a couple confirmations of some of the stories you've heard in the past. The older kids are a little bit more tight-lipped. They're like nervous, I think.
Have you heard about that bat boy that flies about?
I read that in the paper, the one kid says.
How about the mother?
The who? My mom?
Not your mom, but the mother.
Fusion.
Nothing from me.
Jeff, which of the older kids seems the most nervous and reticent?
I'm just going to say there's maybe 2 younger kids and maybe 2 of the older kids, 2 boys. They both do. They're kind of like preteens. They're, strangers and trying to be cool. There's a little bit of.
It's not really abnormal or anything.
Well, I look at them. What about you? Don't you know any fattening tales?
I just heard, and he's kind of like looking like he's watching you, like specifically as he's talking. He says, I heard the story recently about the old skeleton that was found up there at the house.
Oh, what did they say about it?
Well, he kind of looks at you like, wasn't it you guys? Didn't you guys find it?
Well, not personally, but we were around. That doesn't mean we know what anyone made of it or had to say about
it.
You're talking about the one at the McClerney house? Yeah, we were there. We didn't find it ourselves. We were out in the woods. But yeah, that was pretty creepy, wasn't it?
I mean, that's what they said. It was Sarah's shade that lived there, and then all of a sudden you guys find a skeleton. I mean, that's pretty creepy.
Well, now I think that the police are looking into that more than that. Have you ever heard of anything else living out in the woods, back out that direction?
They kind of look at one another like, no, not really.
Because I heard there were little animals that lived in the trees that weren't like rabbits or squirrels or things like that. Nothing.
There's not really a reaction.
How about things that live up in the hills and the mountains back there?
Oh, yeah, we've heard stories about that all our lives growing up.
Like,
well, what's the best one?
Because we collect stories.
Yeah, they're all over the place, and it depends who you talk to. Some people swear by them. Other people just are calling other people crazy. And I mean,
which one's your favorite story about them?
Probably the one that the newspaper guy saw, the Bat Boy.
The Bat Boy? The Bat Boy living up in the woods?
I mean, it's one thing to hear other kids talk about rumors and such, but when one of the grown-ups starts talking about stories like that, and then we read it in the newspaper, it just became real.
Yep. There's weird
you
stuff.
Ever seen anything yourselves?
Can't say as we have. We've heard things.
How do you like your teacher?
Miss Rydell? Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, we came here to visit her. We were here before. We wanted to talk to her some more. She's probably cleaning her room. Is that right?
What was that last part? Sorry.
I said she's probably cleaning her room, right?
Yeah, probably.
All right.
What were you saying, Jasper?
What kind of things do you hear out there?
Just like strange, like howling noises. Like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like a dog, but just weird, different.
What do your folks say when you hear it? What do they say it is?
They just come up with the usual that, oh, it's probably a coyote, it's probably a wolf, it's probably a dog. I mean, but I don't know. I've heard dogs yell and howl. I mean, maybe, but it just gives me the chills when it happens.
Well, what does your teacher say? She must know a lot about all manner of different things.
She just thinks we're pulling her leg.
Do you like to pull her leg? Does
Sometimes.
she have a good sense of humor?
Sometimes.
So, what about leg pull stories, things like that? What do they say when, what do they say when either kids go missing or they're naughty or something like that? Are there any local tales parents like to tell that scare their kids into behaving and all that?
Do a psychology roll, Jerry.
Yeah, don't scare the kids. We've already scared the kids. We're creepy.
I'm
That's a solid failure, but I hope the psychologist is rolling psychology because I sure can't.
What were you going to say, Jasper?
I said I'm not scary or creepy. I've got a dog. I'm just a guy with a dog.
That's true.
They're looking. These are the older two kids. The younger kids are just distracted with the dog, right? They're just having fun. The older kids, they're more interested in the conversation and who the strangers are in town and all. So you see just a quick glance between the two of them, and they just kind of like clam up.
Well, I'm going to push it, but that would seem to be a different role, right? Psychology is me reading them. I'll try and push it if I need to, but I think maybe because I'm using a different skill, it's a different role. But my intention is to roll charm, and I'll tell them about how my folks told boogeyman stories, but they were never very good, and well, me and my friends never took them very seriously at all. But of course, I had a younger brother than me who took them even less seriously than that. Often like to say he wished the boogeyman would show up so that he could break his nose and pull his pants up over his head. And I reckon my little brother could have done it too. He was a fighter. Damn near broke my nose a couple of times. And just try to.
Well, that's good
because
I was going to give you a difficulty challenge on that, but with your story, I'll just say you just need a regular charm success.
All right. Well, now, is it possible to push it further, or would I have to spend luck?
I didn't necessarily count that as a push.
Right.
So,
because of a new skill.
Yeah,
So.
you kind of switch gears, so that's fine. So yeah, I'll say you can push this with the condition that if you fail this one, it might not turn out the way you like.
Well, I probably will spend the luck, but I'd rather not have to, and I hope I don't roll worse.
Mm-hmm.
But my brother, he was adopted. He had some of his own stories that he took a little more seriously. He had grown up on the streets of a larger town, and he would often tell accounts of the snatcher and different names for it. But, the kind of people who lurk about and maybe do actual harm to children for some nefarious purpose or other. Nothing really supernatural about it. So I didn't hold much with those kind of
PTSD.
Didn't hold much with those kind of stories, but well, he could tell an entertaining one too, and
So now I'm going to ask.
I was never sure if he really believed it or he just wanted me to. So I'm trying to turn it around to then make it funny at my own expense, right?
I'm going to ask Tug, Jasper, and Denny to make sanity rolls now. No,
we're going inside to talk to the teacher.
Okay, you're kind of leaving them on his
what
own.
she's doing and leave.
So that is.
We all started moving off cautiously when he said "damn child."
Now I'm gonna have nightmares about the slasher or the.
He's swearing at kids.
That Can you remind me what's the percentage on a hard? I need to recalculate real quick.
Half.
Oh, it's just half?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then, in that case, that's a hard success.
Okay. All right. So with some trepidation, they just share with you the story that is similar to what you're saying. They don't necessarily give it a name like the boogeyman, but they say that, their parents often tell them that, don't stay out too late. When it starts getting dark, come home right away. And they warn us to don't wander off into the woods.
You reckon they take it seriously, or do they just want you to?
I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of both.
All right, so we want to talk to the teacher.
So I noticed that the others have left, and that's my excuse to leave as well,
Sure.
without seeming like, "Hey, kids, I got what I came for." So I'm like,
Okay.
"Well, it looks like my brothers snapped their tails. Have you even scared off the other adults? Well, I think you'd be proud. Nice chatting with you.
Yep. And they wander on.
Don't stay out too late."
Mm-hmm.
And so then I head after the other guys to the house.
Mm-hmm. So again, you enter the small, basically a one-room schoolhouse. You see Miss Rydell. She's cleaning up some books and papers and maybe washing the blackboard. And she looks up. She's a little bit surprised to see a bunch of older people walking in.
Jeff, since I'm coming, I'll mention this now. Since I'm coming in a bit later, and I'm going to let them talk a bit first,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to be unobtrusive when I come in. While she's distracted with them talking to her, I'm going to be more observant, see if I notice any, more weird drawings or, weird stuff before I have to also engage in conversation.
Okay. So you catch her a little bit off guard. She almost a little bit of startled, but then she's like, "Oh, can I help you?"
Hi, remember us?
Yeah. I do. You look familiar.
Yeah, we were here a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
Folklore students.
That's right. I do remember now.
Comic. We're back in town, just following up on some of the interesting stories. I noticed last time I was here, some of your kids had done some really interesting pictures and things. I was wondering if you still had some of those. It's been a couple of weeks. Post them on the wall when I'm looking around.
Maybe her memory's not as good. So she's like, "What pictures? What?"
Oh, just general things. Kids are good sources for folklore because they tell these stories over and over and over again to one another.
Mm-hmm.
What are the rest of you doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
Well,
I'm the dumb one.
like I said,
I'm just asking for a life preserver. Yeah. Somebody throw a rope.
Hanging back a little and being observant. I don't want to seem suspicious. I'll introduce myself as soon as she pauses or notices me, but just while she's distracted by Tug talking,
Sure.
I want to be observant if I can.
Danny or Jasper, would you like to rescue Tug?
trying to remember that song or poem.
Jesus loves me, but it's mother.
Was it out and about, or did we sneak through things? Did we look through stuff? I can't remember.
It was just sitting on her desk, along
Yeah.
with a good picture.
Yeah, and so I'm adding really. There was I think there was a poem or a song lying in it. It really was interesting and kind of speaks to the folklore research we're doing, and I kind of quote a couple of lines of it.
Okay.
A really interesting kind of local poem or song, maybe.
Yep.
Listen here, witch. Tell us what's up.
Yeah, Damon, I've got a gun.
We're demon hunters from Massachusetts.
Do it. She do a psychology roll for me, Danny.
Yeah, I'm really watching to see what. Oh, seriously, man. 90 something.
Okay. She just it looks like you triggered another memory. So she's like, I do remember that poem. She walks over to her desk and sits down. She opens up one of her larger drawers and, a bunch of files and papers and stuff. She just starts rifling through the files. Jasper,
Go ahead. Jasper, do you want to hit her with your kosh?
I didn't hear you say me, sorry. No, I don't want to hit it with my
Jasper, did you
kosh.
bring the thumb screws?
Did you bring the dog in with you?
I have got the dog with me, yes.
Okay.
I'm not apologizing for that fact.
Can I just say, while she's looking through, I'm kind of eyeballing the psychologist to kind of because my role was disastrous. Keep an eye on her.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jasper. Sorry.
I have, since I started attending university, wished to cultivate some manner of eccentricity. And I've now decided to do so by unapologetically taking my dog with me wherever I go. Having found out there is nothing specifically in college regulations.
Right. So Jeff, while she's looking down at her papers, if I have noticed anything that I wanted to take a closer look at that would have made me seem suspicious, I do that while she's looking down at her papers. Otherwise, I probably have to talk pretty soon. So, do I have any chance of having seen anything, or
Nothing's
stand out?
Yep, nothing's jumping out at you.
All right, then I'll go to walk over like I'm going to talk to her too.
Sure.
But since she's looking down, I won't interrupt her. I'll look down. Do I notice anything in what she's shuffling
Okay.
through?
Do a spot hidden.
Yes. Success.
Okay, so you see she's going through the papers and stuff. Just, here it is. I thought I might have thrown this out, but it looks like I kept it. And she takes out the poem, and with your successful spot hidden, you see that illustration was right behind it. So she takes the poem out and she hands it to you, Danny. Or she just puts it on the desk, really. Whatever.
Is that something from church?
She looks...
It sounds a little like Jesus loves me, but mommy loves me.
It does, although she looks a little bit awkward, and she kind of sheepishly looks at you, and she says, well, I'll be honest with you, I don't really go to church on a regular basis. So.
Oh, well, that's okay. I suppose it's from the little. I mean, you didn't write it. The little kid wrote it. Do you know who wrote this?
Actually, I don't. I just found it in one of the desks.
Mother loves me, this I know, for the others tell me so. They have watched us for so long. Where we are little, our brothers are strong. Yes, mother loves me. Yes, mother loves me. Yes, mother loves me, for the others tell me so.
Mother.
So you,
Who could the others
you,
be?
you have what, about 11 students?
It's
One of them did write this, is right?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
You must recognize the handwriting. Was it one of the older children or one of the younger?
I don't think the GM knows.
Well, I don't know. I may not be good at reading that myself. I thought maybe she was actually trying to be evasive.
She just no. I mean, it just didn't. I don't think I recognized the handwriting.
All right.
You get a lot of things like this from the kids in your class? I guess some of them must have some quite active imaginations.
Sure. I mean, kids,
Well,
See,
I don't go to church much myself, but if they sung anything this interesting, maybe I should. Who do you think these others are?
I really didn't give it much thought. I mean, like I said, I almost threw it out. It was unusual, but I guess I just held on to it. I don't know.
This is the kind of thing that we're really interested in, folklore in local areas. If you don't really need it, would it be okay to take that, or as an example of just local community lore?
Go ahead. I'm going to ask you for luck or charm, some sort of roll there.
Okay. And I'm kind of maybe adding if there's anything else that you were going to dispose of, My rolls are terrible, 91.
Can I try?
Go ahead.
Nice.
Okay, what was her surname again?
Holly
Very close to, pardon?
Rydell. Holly Rydell.
Rydell. I'm going to try for a fast talk roll. Mr. Rydell, I know this it does sound like kind of an unorthodox request, but the truth of the matter is this is a fantastic example of what we call living folklore. That's folklore that's not just tales jotted down years and years ago. It's those tales as they stand right now in this living moment, and it's such a vibrant and an important field to study, and so under-resourced. There's so few people writing about this. I mean, if you could help us by letting us borrow this piece of paper, just enough to take it back to the university and have a photostatic copy made of it, that would be of enormous value to our research. And fast talk roll.
Is it possible to assist a roll also?
I got an 11.
Is that a thing? No.
That's actually an extreme by 1 point.
Nice. I was actually going to offer you a bonus die, but I don't think you need it.
Don't need it.
Can he save it for the next
I'll take that later. I'll take that when I have to do any conflict.
So she's quite impressed, and she's like, photostatic. These guys. So she kind of hands it over to you.
And actually, what about if you wouldn't mind parting with it as well? Speaking of under-resourced, you're a teacher. You know how it is with last-minute projects. I could use a piece of physical artifact myself. I noticed the drawing behind it in your file. looked like it might contain some rather evocative imagery. Do you think you could bear to part with it for a similar copy as well? But that was charm, not fast talk.
Okay, I will let you go ahead and roll charm.
That's a very extreme success, almost a crit. It's a 0-2.
Oh, wow. Okay, nice. Yeah, so then she hesitantly, you can see she's torn about, she's like holding onto it in her hands and kind of like trying to make up her mind in her head. And then she's like, I mean, it's been 2 weeks. No one's claimed it. No one's asked for it. It's just that this one's a bit more disturbing, and I would just ask you that you be extremely careful. Well, actually, I would just put it this way. I would ask you not to show it to anybody else in town. Something like this, if it got out into the town, rumors can start flying, and I don't want to stir up any more additional problems that this child might be dealing with. And she looks at you like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, of course, I do understand, and also we're very careful in this kind of research not to perturb local communities any more than necessary. It ruins the information, not to mention the community. So I will be very careful and hold this in complete confidence. And does she hand it to me?
Yes, she does hand it to you. I was curious. I'm just thinking now. I'm sure you guys all introduced yourself when you walked in. You have the psychologist with you. Do you want him to introduce himself as a psychologist or keep that to himself?
If he earlier asked, I would suggest keeping it to himself.
Okay.
Unless he asked, though, I never volunteer that opinion.
I'm wondering, though, if a psychologist might be quite a rare thing in a place like this, and maybe that could be a helpful thing if she has disturbed children.
Could also be a harmful thing because people didn't trust psychology.
Yeah. So once I'm holding the picture safely, Jeff, I'm looking at it and I say, wow, now that I get a closer look, you're right. This is rather disturbing. Do you know the child who drew this?
I do not. Same thing. I just found it in one of the desks.
So she, first of all, just said she was concerned about it, the disturbed child. Now she doesn't know. Of course, I don't trust her. I'm rolling psychology because I don't know if the real psychologist is rolling psychology. But I still failed, so never mind.
Okay.
Well, have you ever heard any of the children, describing scenes like this, maybe in their storytelling or games?
What are you doing, Tug?
I'm just sort of listening to them talk.
Does she?
I'm glancing around. While they're talking, I'm looking around at stuff.
Does she just ignore my question, Jeff? Or is she thinking about it?
She's thinking, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to give you the impression that you're skating on thin ice is what I'm trying to give the impression of. Like she's right on the edge of she doesn't want to share too much.
Well, can I be spot hiddening again, looking around?
What?
Does that make any sense?
To look for anything
Unusual.
Go ahead, roll.
Or how about, you know what? No, never mind. I got a 0. I'm checking the pencil sharpener to see if
And Jeff, if I have to push the charm roll, I will, and I'll say, well, resources aside, given this, it's not like I'd have to quote you in research or anything like that. But I would like to know something plausible I could say about this, rather than mere speculations of my own.
So did you already roll, or did you?
I don't know if I did. I rolled charm before and got an ought too. I don't know if you want me to keep that roll, push a roll, or if I can't do better, or a new roll, or I don't see any other. Oh, I have persuade. If you want me to roll a new skill, because I've already charmed her as much as she can be charmed, I can roll persuade. I have 33 in persuade.
Here's what I'm going to do. You roll persuade. I would like Danny to roll something similar, whether it be psychology, persuade, I guess really anything really but charm again. And then Jasper, if you could maybe do the same thing, some sort of persuade or psychology.
Is there any chance of having a bonus die on persuade because the charm was so good, or did it have to be that good just to get this far? Anyway.
Yeah, this is. I'm counting this as a separate sort of your.
Okay.
Sort of
well, I failed.
Trail.
The persuade roll failed.
Okay.
And I'm not going to spend the luck it would take to. It's not a terrible roll, but I'm not going to spend that much on it.
Yep.
Well, persuade or psychology. I've only got either of them. Can I have the dice that I've dropped on the floor?
Could I do some? Would it be okay if I did something a little bit different? Because I'm looking, my psychology is terrible, and my dice rolls have been terrible. And I think as the conversation is going on, initially I'm coming in here thinking, oh, she's a bad one. But it strikes me that she seems to be, at least the way she's communicating, that she's really sincere and concerned about the children. So could I kind of, as all the conversation, when there's maybe a little pause, and Jerry's asking about, bits and pieces, and I realise she's becoming more and more uneasy, and just kind of interject and say, we do apologise for, I hope it doesn't seem like we're interfering. We're just very keen on this area and the folklore, and we're really sorry if we're making you feel uncomfortable. We don't mean to. We know the children are very important to you, so please forgive us. Is it Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Rydale. It's just her enthusiasm, So I'm trying to just appease her a little bit and make her feel more relaxed about all of our, can I get this, can I get that, what about this, all the questions and stuff. We've come on pretty full on,
Okay. Jasper, I'm still curious. Did you make your roll?
No, I failed.
Okay. I'm curious. I'm going to give you Tug, Jasper, or Jerry. Decide amongst yourselves who's feeling lucky and wants to roll.
Well, what?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, I feel pretty lucky.
My luck's okay. I'm lucky.
I haven't felt particularly lucky since the early 90s.
Come on, Tug. Lucky man.
Oh,
Hey, Danny, you broke the tie. Good choice, Danny. Way to break
oh,
the tie.
5 out of 64. That's,
Wow.
Wow.
I knew from the fact that Tug was so clueless looking a few minutes ago, I knew he had something to offer.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm looking at that pencil sharpener and we're like, it will have sharpened his wits by now.
Excuse me, Miss Rydell. What is this bloody dagger here? What is this sculpture of Cthulhu doing?
Would you mind if we took that as a sample to have a three-dimensional rendering made at the university?
Why is the body of Inspector Legrache lying under your table?
Yeah.
all right. My hand suddenly flops out. Right. Okay. This is going good, actually. So she with a slight change of tactics, Danny, you see that she kind of lets her guard down a little bit. And she lets you know, I do apologize. I'm not sure if there was an original question there, but let me just say this. She's hesitant. She's very, she's looking at you and she's like, I want you to understand that my first and foremost is I care about the children. So that being said, I'm also scared of the children.
I'm kind of agreeing with everything she's saying, the kind of kind, encouraging, kind of, yes, oh, we know you care about the children, that kind of stuff. And, oh, is that right? Just kind of trying to draw her in a little bit. How's that? Why would they make you feel that way?
And she kind of, she's like, again, please don't go repeating this around town. I would hate for something like this to get out. I don't remember the exact day, but it was about 2 weeks ago. I was teaching. The kids were out on recess. I was out front trying to keep an eye on everybody. And, it's a small town. There's nothing they can really get in trouble with. But I suddenly realized there's about 4 or 5 kids that were not here. So didn't think much of it. They're probably around here somewhere. So I looked inside. Nobody was inside. Everybody was outside. I'm looking around the front of the schoolhouse. Don't see them. So I walked around the back, and I was quite shocked. They were all squatting down in a circle, doing something. I couldn't see what they were doing. And they were laughing. I thought they were playing a game or something. I don't.
Marbles or something.
Yeah. And I don't think they heard me coming, because as I got closer, suddenly they must have heard me then. They suddenly stood up and tried to block what they were doing, but I had already seen what they were doing. They had somehow caught a cat and they had skinned it. And they were poking it and cutting it.
With what?
One of them had a pocket knife, and the other ones were just using sticks.
They'd skinned a cat.
Yeah, that's really upsetting.
And then it actually gets a little bit worse, because they had, I heard as I approached, they were laughing. And when they stood up, I thought, they'd be all apologetic. I thought they would be very, oh, we're sorry, Miss Righto. We found the cat. We didn't know. And, I was expecting the whole runaround. But they all kept smiling at me. And then the one older boy, Billy, he just looked at me right in the eye. He said, we're not going to tell any about this, are we, Miss Rydell? And she said, I just had a chill go down my spine, and I didn't want to push it. I was afraid. So I told him, I said, no, we're not going to have a problem. And I turned around and walked away.
That's very disturbing.
Have you seen this kind of weird behavior before, or is this recent?
This was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I've heard whispers. I've heard, now that I'm telling you the story, I've only been here about 2 years. I'm replacing the woman that was here before me. No, I'm not sure. There was always stories about her demise. She apparently fell down the steps at her house and twisted her neck. But there were stories that when they discovered her body, she had a kitchen knife in her hand.
Like she was trying to defend herself from something.
Yeah.
Mrs. Rydell, do you know who Billy's parents are?
She definitely would. I can give you some names here. Mr. and Mrs. Griffin.
And what is the nature of their employment?
Mr. Griffin works down at the docks there. He tends to load and unload the produce that's coming in off the river. Mrs. Griffin, I think she's just a housewife. She stays at home.
Do you know them very well?
Not really. Billy does not. Excuse me. With this being kind of a small, rural, mostly farming community, I'm lucky to get kids when I get them. The kids are very, parents don't necessarily put a whole lot of clout in education, and the ones that do, it's more the fact that, they're just needed around the house to help out.
Does Billy have any particular interest in school?
Not really. I mean, he's an okay student, I guess.
So other than what you saw, there's nothing remarkable about him or any of your students?
Yeah, not that I would say, really.
It's funny you telling us this story because we were out hiking today up in the woods, and there's an old ramshackle cabin up there, and it looked like some maybe older kids had put graffiti in it, and so maybe there's, we have experienced some of the dark side of the world of folklore, and maybe there's something locally that's affecting that young boy in particular. Do you ever feel unsafe? Do you feel you don't worry about your own safety?
Up until that day, I would have waved that aside. I would have not given it a second thought. Kids are kids. Kids have problems. But that day, when I saw what they were up to, when I saw how they were acting, it scared me.
Well, how did the other children act around the five you saw with the cat? Do the five you saw with the cat normally play together? Are they separate from the rest of the group in any way?
I guess I can't say one way or another. I mean, kids tend to form groups naturally, especially based on age, and I have all different age ranges here. So the older
Are those kids all the same age?
Roughly, give or take.
Do you have a blank paper?
Sure. Yeah.
I draw her the inverted pentagram with a circle. Have you ever seen any of the children use this symbol in any of their art?
No, I haven't.
Mrs. Rydell,
crumple it up and take it away.
We're staying up at the, explain where we are and all the rest of it. And, if you ever feel like something is amiss, feel free to come and contact us. We're not that far away. And, our friend here, the professor, and I point to the psychologist and I just give him a wink, because I'm calling him a professor. I say, I don't know if he already introduced himself, so if not, I'll introduce him. Our professor's speciality is psychology and the human mind, So if you feel like you needed help in talking to the kids, I'm sure he would be willing to oblige and help out. Maybe in the guise of being another teacher visiting or something like that,
Okay. Yep, she looks a little bit relieved.
Mrs. Rydell, what does your husband do?
He is a fireman.
So he's like on. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Do you has there been much call for fire service in this season?
No, not really. She's hesitant. She's like, I mean, I don't know if it's relevant to what you're looking or asking for, but he actually doesn't live here. We're not separated, but it's a long story. But my mother wasn't doing too well. We live in Montpelier, Vermont. I didn't look it up on the map, so I don't know how far away that is, but it's a distance away. And then when my mother was sick, I came back to take care of her, and she's actually been holding on since I've been here for the full 2 years. So I pretty much am just been staying here, and I go back and we visit on the weekends.
So your mother is here in town.
Yeah.
And she is well. And she's well now.
Well, I don't know if I would use the term well, but she's getting by.
Well, it's kind of you. You're a loyal daughter.
Mm-hmm. Jasper?
May I ask, is this stevedore fella, this Griffin, is what kind of man is he? Is he a church-going man, or more of a hellraiser? Or?
Literally.
That was inadvertent.
Quick, look for a music box.
She just says, as far as I know, I mean, I don't know him that well, but from what I do know, he's just a hard worker. He's works all the time.
Not the kind of man to lead his children into any kind of nonsense. Then you'd say.
I don't think so. I mean, I would find it hard to believe.
We've heard from the doctor that there are a number of unusual deaths of some of the children. In the 2 years that you've been here, have you lost children that were part of your classroom?
Yes. And I'm not going to call for a roll because you guys are all sort of paying attention to her critically at this point, I think. It's almost like you can see the gears turning in her head, like all of this lining up, and you're pointing it all and you're laying it all out for her. She's got that look in her. The fear returns again, and she says, in the last 2 years, I've lost, well, not me personally, but I've lost 2 children.
I'm sorry, 3?
2 students.
Two students.
And what were the circumstances?
Yeah, did you hear anything unusual about the circumstances?
I don't necessarily have any details other than they were both considered accidents.
How did the children react?
Yeah, it was the same, how you would expect. Everybody was upset, and we had memorial services.
Was everybody upset, or were some of the kids indifferent to the whole thing, especially Billy and his gang? I mean, that might call for her to have a memory, but
yeah, I'm going to put that to a dice roll.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. She again, like you're laying this out for her, so she's trying to she's like, now that you mention it, I would say maybe he did not seem as upset as the others. So, but I don't know.
How old were the children who died?
They would have been probably, I think the one was 12, and I think the other one was 10.
Oh my word!
Oh. We have seen some unusual things going on here in this town. And even though we're just folklorists, we're interested in getting to the root of some of these mysteries. And we definitely want to know more. You can tell us what odd things just don't make sense, because there are definitely things in this town that don't make any sense. And maybe if we figure them all out, we'll be able to figure out what's really going on here. The doctor thinks there's something strange going on here, and you think there's something strange. I think that the reporter thinks there's something strange. We think there's something strange.
Did you know that we rescued the girl that went missing when we were here the last time?
Braithwaite,
Braithwaite, wasn't it?
Emily, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was a very disturbing situation we found her in.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we think there's something strange in the town. We don't want to scare you, but we want to say that you can trust us. And if you need any help, we are here. And we've got some friends up at the house as well.
And quite honestly, we're not absolutely trusting the local police. Maybe, but we're not sure about them. So
They didn't credit all of our observations before, and, well, they didn't seem to show a great deal of respect for things like research and education. And
yeah, kind of like Billy, they seem a little too indifferent to us.
Mm-hmm.
They should care a little more. So I'm just saying, whatever we've discussed here, we're not going to discuss it with them. And we'd appreciate it if you don't discuss it with them either.
I believe we have a mutual understanding then.
Yeah. Well,
honestly, we're not going to be discussing what you've told us with anyone in town.
No.
What you described concerning the children, well, it's the most unambiguous thing that we've heard, and seems to show no doubt of its peculiarity. Your concerns all seem very, very warranted.
Yeah.
There's a look of relief, might be a little bit strong of a word, but she's glad that she seems to have someone on her side. Like your words of encouragement, and that you're just a phone call away, that sort of thing. She's a little bit.
And if you do hear or see anything else peculiar, please do come by our house. Someone should be there, even if we're out conducting research. We won't generally have it unattended.
I suddenly had a horrible thought, and I'm going to look concerned for a moment and then walk over to the doors or the windows, make sure the children all left. After school. Because if Billy's outside watching and listening to us.
Do a spot hidden.
No. God. I'd have to spend so much luck.
Push it, Tug. And if you fail, you go blind.
That's a bit harsh.
Yeah, I'd have to push it because I'd have to spend like over 50 luck.
I quickly cast the spell to enhance Tug's ability to spot hidden.
At which point I immediately cartwheel around.
It's like, way to get in the spirit of a schoolhouse, Tug. That's some serious role playing.
At which point we hear the kid outside go, "Wow." What were you going to say, Jeff?
Can you rationalize it? I'd be willing to give you the role if you can somehow.
Well, I'm specifically looking for if any of the kids are listening to what we're saying.
Right. No, I got that, but I'm wondering. Generally, for a pushed roll, you need to change your tactics slightly to,
How about to push it, I go to the door quietly, and then I suddenly open it and I take a look around outside.
Oh, I thought that's what you were doing, actually.
Oh, no, I just went to look out the windows.
Oh,
If
okay.
anybody was peeking in the windows.
Okay, all right.
So now I'm going to go and see if there's anybody on the side of the school looking in.
Now, work with me. If you fail, generally something bad happens on a push roll. So what sort of...
Falls down the stairs.
Billy jams a knife in my throat.
Okay, it's a bit
Well,
hard.
this got dark. Not that much darker, actually.
I don't know. I trip and fall off the porch.
little comedic element there. Yeah, let's go with that. That's easy.
And I got, what am I rolling for?
Spot hidden.
Spot hidden. No, I'm still 26 points off.
Oh boy.
So
Do a 1d3.
I'm like, all right, I got you, little kid.
Tug,
I fall
are you quite all right?
I think I smashed my nose.
So he goes flying down the stairs, and we're all like, "What?"
Did you hear something outside?
No, but I thought, what if one of the kids was listening? I didn't see anything though. I just wanted to make sure, and then I didn't see the tripwire that we left. No, I didn't see that.
Well, I mean, if you went flying down the stairs, would we not come out to make sure you're all right, and we all get a spot hidden while we're out there?
I think we'd rush out, given that we were just talking about people dying from unusual accidents.
Yeah.
That's an accident. I think we'd be straight there.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah. So I'm not gonna be that nice of a GM. I'm gonna say we can end it there, unless you guys want to talk this through real quick, before we end it, because it's kind of a, if we come back to this next week to revisit it, it might not be fresh in your mind.
Have the other guys all rushed out outside when Tug fell off the step?
I did.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. I look. So I haven't rushed after Tug. I just called after him. Has she rushed over or not?
She was behind her desk, so she would not. She just what happened?
Okay. So it's just you and your mother by yourselves?
Yep.
And your predecessor perished just before you arrived?
Mm-hmm.
I pause and hesitate. Are you at all a decent shot?
She's a country girl.
Well, that's why I'm hoping that she is, in fact, a decent shot. It's not a crazy question, I hope.
She's a little bit confused. Give me a second.
Are you good with a switch?
Yeah. She's good at teaching. No, she responds, no, not really. She's a little bit confused.
Well, then I suppose the best I can say, please, even if you don't see or hear anything, and you just feel uncertain or unnerved, you and your mother are both welcome to visit out at the house where we're renting. As I said, it's never unattended, and it should be rather safe in the event of anything disturbing. I really appreciate your assistance, and realizing that you're not exactly local, even if your mother is. Well, as I said, I think you're quite right to be wary. Well, I suppose I should get back to it.
Okay.
Mind that step.
Before you leave, let me check real quick. So do you guys want to chat this out real quick, or you want to wait till next week?
Yeah, I think that we
Maybe.
should go see the doctor.
Yeah. Drink while the iron is hot.
Yeah, we'll go to the
Sure.
doctors
I
after
hope I
this.
didn't break my nose. But all right. So are we outside?
Yeah.
Well, I am now.
Okay.
So
I'm pausing with Jerry, though. I want to see how. Do you guys want to end it here? Or do you want to continue it next week, or do you keep going forward?
I'm good to keep talking and.
Well, are you
stuff.
saying? Are we all just? Are we going to talk about what we're going to do next week?
Whatever you want. I'm just saying, like, if we break now, you just got a lot of information. If we break now, it might not be fresh next week. That's all.
Yeah, I would be inclined to not break
Yeah,
just
I
because we
think-
had an info dump. I think
I
it's
think
good to digest it a bit.
Obviously, we need to look into certain children and their families and their bizarre hatred of children of cats. Why would they skin a cat?
It also it happens to seem convenient that our mother took not well and she came to help her mother when they needed a teacher. You know, it all fitted together quite nicely for her, I don't know.
Yes, it certainly is coincidental like these deaths. You know that poem or song, though we are weak, our brothers are strong? Perhaps, well, it seems the more we delve into these matters, the more occult lore seems, well, like you were saying before, things, or Tug was saying, things seem like they somehow make sense to what we might expect, but don't quite fit. So, you know, like these Migo from other realms, or things from the fishermen from some deep place or mountain. There are so many accounts of children being born from the union of superhuman beings. There are occultists who cultivate such arts, who sire them deliberately. I wonder, perhaps these children are not altogether human, or perhaps they are somehow being farmed by the Migo somehow, or raised as hosts, maybe?
It's all speculation. Who do we talk to next? Do we go after the parents of the kids and find out?
Well, Tug, you did say you needed the doctor. We have an excuse.
Yeah, but that's just here. I mean, that'll take me 10 minutes. Maybe it'll stop bleeding. I hope it's not broken.
Well, no, I'm not actually suggesting you need the doctor for your nose, Tug, but it is an excuse to talk to the man again if we want to. I'm not sure about talking to that child's parents directly. I don't think we know enough to know how to approach them.
We could just see what kind of people they are.
What, by hanging out at the dock?
I don't know. There's a dock? I thought we were in the middle of the state.
The river.
Oh, well, whatever. What are we going to do tomorrow? Probably not going to play it now. We're going to play it next week. But
yeah.
Tomorrow.
Do you need me to help remind you of something, or?
Well, we've got this. Now we got the information about the kids.
We've also got the wife of the guy that was bumped off.
Right.
The letter, remember?
We've got the reporter. We've got to recheck out the Baptist church. Plus, we've got.
If I might pour rain on your parade a little bit, we will also be spending tonight back at that house, and I mean, there's no real guarantee that we'll still be here tomorrow.
Well, that's true.
If those things come back again.
Well, that doesn't mean we shouldn't plan for tomorrow, Jasper. After all, if we wind up dead, we won't be sorry we planned for tomorrow. Unless you're planning to spend the evening in the church, that is.
Do you think that the little kids are killing off other little kids?
It seems plausible. It certainly crossed my mind. Also, how did one learn to skin a cat so effectively?
Well, it's the country. They probably know how to skin a rabbit.
There's many ways to do it.
Well, I suppose so, but his parents aren't hunters. His father isn't a woodsman. He's a dock worker.
You learn it from other kids.
Well, that was what I suppose.
Everyone's a hunter around these parts.
It's clear from that song or poem that the others with a capital O are creatures like the Meagle or something. There's some kind of contact.
It seems that way.
But didn't it mention brothers as well as others? That was the rhyme, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it could be meant metaphorically, like in some kind of lodge, but maybe not. I do think we need to talk to that woman who Blaine so antagonized. The longer we're here and don't speak to her, the less likely it will be that she will remain here, and the less likely we will be to catch her unprepared to put us off. So I think maybe that should be our priority.
Maybe before we leave, we ask the teacher about her. See if she knows her well.
I could power back in.
I think, too...
She's not going to have any more information.
I think, too, that we need to gain some allies here, and I think we gained possibly an ally in the teacher.
Yeah.
We should be able to gain an ally in the doctor if he's legit, and we kind of think that he is.
Well, maybe we should stop off at the doctor before.
And then maybe the reporter is legit, too, and we'll be able to gather more data on how these kids died. Surely there must have been some sort of what do I want to say? The report that comes when somebody dies.
Autopsy.
Well, they wouldn't necessarily have done an autopsy in the 20s back out here in the country, but there would definitely be a mortician's,
It would be a death
report.
A death certificate. Yeah.
They usually put cause of death on that.
I think you're right about the reporter. I can't see any advantage to the MIGO or any of these agencies, whatever they are, to have a reporter call in attention, unless all of his material were distraction. But some of it seems to hit rather close to home.
Well, this reporter does do a lot of research, so. The other thing is I'm not so sure about the sheriff. He might be an ally, but we have to vet him out really well. I don't think the deputy's an ally.
We'll have to ask the reporter if he's seen any other diabolical graffiti or that kind of rumor.
I say we go to the doctor now because we can.
Yes, we certainly have an excuse now, and
probably about 4:30 or so at this point.
Okay, sure.
And then we can do the doctor next week.
Okay.
Does that work? Cool. Now my nose is all because I was kind of squeezing it a little. Our players included Mick Swan, George C., Ken Trench, and myself, with Jeff Wilkins as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing up to 5 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. The costs involved with this show are provided almost entirely by our patrons. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. If you'd like to support our show, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch that bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.